Joining us now, our Friday NHL insider from the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast and ESPN color commentator, Mr. Ray Ferraro. How you doing? Where do we find you?
I'm at home. I thought I'd come home for the one day as I look at the weather report that is going to be dry.
Right.
Hey, don't you turn the corner here and you go 100%.
Hey,
100%.
I'm going to guess that November is actually the one month you don't mind traveling out of Vancouver.
Oh, it is a nice one.
Yeah, especially those Florida road
home for the
trips.
weekend, and out to got a couple of good ones next week. Boston at Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh at the Ranger, or Boston at the Ranger. So,
boy,
Marchand's back. You got a couple of goals last night as opener, and so it'll be a good week.
Those Eastern Seaboard markets are they your favorite games? Just because you know there will be atmosphere. Usually they're competitive teams to some degree. Do you just love doing those?
I do. There's an edge to them.
Yeah.
I was in Philly for the home opener, and it just feels a little different. Of course, that was the weekend they had a baseball playoff game, and then Cowboys and Eagles across the street. So that whole complex was just buzzing.
Yeah.
And I was in Madison Square last week, and you're right. There is something different about them.
Do you see the Potvin socks that he's selling
now? Well, what's crazy?
Cagey.
I got to the Islanders in 1990, and when Rangers quickly went to LA, I'd come back with LA and they'd be chanting Potvin sucks.
Yes, yeah. No, it
and
doesn't matter.
You realize he's been retired for 15 years, and he does not, and has never had a connection to the Kings. It didn't matter,
Didn't matter. My dad once took me to a game at the Spectrum. And the drive back to the hotel was instructions on what I couldn't share with my mother from what we heard at the game, at the upper deck in the Spectrum. Let's move on to the Canucks, because there's been some things said about the Canucks this week, too. That would be not out of place in the Spectrum's upper deck. But they got a win, Ray. What did you make of the game in Seattle?
Well, I think any win they get now, given their current lineup and, the way that they've played the first couple of weeks of the season, whether it's pretty or not, or just take it and try not to break it down into every bit of minutia, mainly because it might sound elementary, but like you're looking for anything good to happen. Like, do you really need to look at what didn't go well? Because there's lots. I mean, I'm reading they couldn't handle Seattle's speed. Oh, really? Look at the fellas that are playing on the blue line. Look at you're not going to be able to, with that many replacements on a defense that you're hoping can be good enough. You take that many replacements away. Now that means you don't move the puck out of your end on your stick well enough. You just kind of chip it out the center, and then they come racing back down. So it's one thing leads into another. Look, when they gave up the goal late there to make it 5-4, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
They can't. This cannot
same reaction.
happen.
I had the same reaction.
Right? So here's the thing: they played. What would they have? 4 straight 2-goal leads, and they kicked them all away. Somewhere that evens itself out. Martin Jones didn't have a great night last night. Not your problem.
No,
that's Seattle.
You don't apologize for it.
Take the 2 points, move on, try and. I mean, it's not good news that Pittsburgh's lost twice in a row. That's not good news.
And they've been waiting in town.
An angry and a very good team.
Yeah.
So this will be Friday night. Will be a tough one. You're back home, and everybody probably feels a little better about themselves, but it's a tough road right now.
I'm surprised that it took this long for the. Sorry, Matt. I'm surprised it took this long for the fights to proliferate for the Canucks. They're usually a struggling team on a losing streak. Don't they do this a little bit earlier in the process?
Well, in the past, sure, because you had more. You had more people that were able and willing to do it. I mean, there's a great story. You remember Keith Acton, who was a terrific player. He's just breaking in with Montreal. He tells us he's in the minors his first year, and they had got pushed around a little bit early, and so the same sort of thing happens. There's fight. And of course, this is in a different time. And so these older guys are fighting. And so Keith decides he should fight too. And he gets his lunch handed to him. So after the first period, they're sitting in there, and the coach comes in and is like, good job, guys. We're into the game. It's a physical start. And they called Keith Woody. It was his nickname. And he goes, Woody, keep your gloves on. We're trying to have a tough team here.
We're ruining the reputation.
You're killing us. So that's why, who else was going to fight? I get it. The frustration's there. And I found it quite interesting in the guys that dropped the mitts. You can say, oh, these guys don't care. These guys don't, they're not putting the effort in. And then it gets to a certain point. And you're like, I'm not a proponent of fighting, but I noticed last night. To me, that mattered.
So what did you notice? Expand on that, Rick, when you say,
I'm like,
who dropped the mitts?
If you're sitting there on the bench, you're any of those newer players or any of the guys that haven't got much going, and you're like, Tanner Pearson fights once every year. And, that's not, Miller's dropped his gloves too. Horvat's trying to fight. It's one thing if it's your designated tough guys.
Yeah.
That, because that's what they do. You would notice, and it gives you, as much as people don't like the fighting energy thing, that would give you energy. When it was the staged, as you will, fight, the energy was in the fight, and then it was over. Because those two guys fought, and that is kind of separate to the game. This was not separate to the game. The point was, guys, if we're going to play, we got to dive in. If we're going to try and win, we got to dive in. We can't. They've played too much on the edges. Part of it is your roster and the health of your team, and you just can't do what you want to do.
Well, and of course, the other subtext here is that's little brother, and they've owned them. They were 4-0 last year, and they won this one. So that is the one team that they've got confidence against, and the one foe that they feel, I suppose, that they can push around a little bit.
On the Miller front, too, guys, the block shot, too, right? Not only does he fight, but then he lays it out in the final seconds to block the shot, right? That's
when I see that, it's at that point, everybody's doing just about whatever you can.
Yeah.
And I always look at little plays that happen just prior. Did that puck really need to be in the zone? Is there anywhere that puck could have been chipped out to safety? They win a draw, right? And they don't clear the puck.
Yeah.
Right? They win the draw. That play, the guys on the ice have to be able to settle. Make a couple of passes, chip it down the wall, get up the ice. Don't put yourself in that position. Easy to say from my couch, right? I would have been on the bench, by the way. I would not have been out there too.
Come on. The sixth man? You would have been the sixth guy, no?
Well, on the offensive side, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I would have been out there for the goalie, but on the other side, I would have had my pom-pom out, and I would be like, hey, good block and all that stuff. But when that goal went in, I can't even imagine how their guts must have dropped on the bench. Because there's no chance. Every one of them did not think, are you kidding me? Yeah. There's no chance.
You mentioned playing without Quinn Hughes, and I wanted to get to that because, needless to say, there's Quinn Hughes and there's everyone else on this defense core. Have you noticed them playing differently without their number one defenseman? Should they, or do they need to play differently? And I don't just mean the blue line, but as a team, right, without Quinn Hughes.
Problem, every time you try to protect something, you open up somewhere else. So if you decide, okay, we've got to protect the blue line that is, cut in half, basically, that means we can't be as aggressive up the ice. We've got to draw in tighter. The problem with that is now you just invite the other team into your zone. They're getting in there anyway. Don't let them in there 20% more of the time. I do think the biggest problem, though, becomes, well, it's twofold. One is to break up a cycle is paramount to spending no time in your zone. And to do that, you need to be aggressive and quick. And that's not a hallmark of this defense right now, right? That's just not what they are. So the cycles continue. Then they get the puck and they can't move it. Quinn's different than a lot of guys because he can get it and he can elude somebody. And now once you get by that first player, you've got a couple of seconds to make your play. Watch Chris Letang tonight. he eludes the first guy, even out of the scrum. He gets it and he makes a little move. Now he's got a second or two to make a play. Watch some of the other guys. They get it and they just shoot it. It's a grenade. They want to get rid of it as far away from them as they can. So do they play different? 100%. I understand the offense and getting D up into play and all that. To me, what they miss most is the ability to move the puck one pass 20 feet out of the zone. Then you can just breathe a little bit. They get it, and it's like a punt. You get it to the other blue line, and they just come charging right back down into your zone, and that's a problem.
What are you seeing from OEL this year? Because he's going to be the guy that's leaned on with Quinn Hughes gone. We had Cam Sharon on yesterday. He said analytically he doesn't like at all what he's seeing from OEL. It's not so pronounced a difference for me. I thought he was meh last year. I think he's meh this year. Are you seeing any difference?
I wouldn't say difference, but what I noticed last night is, and this happens to guys when they start to play a lot of minutes, is on the blue line in particular, is they lose their aggressiveness a little bit because they're always trying to defend. So instead of getting up into the play, and not when you've got the puck, when you don't have it. So if you don't get up tight onto those forwards, like to have a really small gap, now you've got to skate and you've got to turn and handle speed. And that puts him on his heels, as I see it, way too much. And it's hard. It's one thing to say, hey, you should just be confident, get up and, oh, really? I should? Like Luke Shen thought he had help in the middle of the ice. So he was aggressive on, was at the 3-3, the Beniers goal. So he steps up into the play. Shen made the right play. The play broke down behind him. And so if you're OEL and you're on the ice for 25 minutes a night and somebody's telling you, get up in the play, you're like, every time I get up in the play, it gets chipped by me. I don't have help. So you start, everything sort of erodes. It's like water. It just kind of erodes slowly. And pretty soon he's like, you know what? I'm going to be back here. And the more you're back here, the more they get 10 feet to race at you with speed. It's like the chicken and egg thing. And the best D, when they're always playing well, they are right up in your face. Like I watched Colorado the other night. Now that's a terrible comparison because, they've got Byram and Gerard, Makar, and Taves. They can get up in the play, those four. If they make a mistake, they can get back to.
They can get back, yeah.
Like they're just exceptional skaters. It's so obvious when you watch them. You're like, we talk about, McKinnon and Rantanen and, Nichushkin's having a great start. Like, oh my gosh, like you can never hem them in. Right when you think you've got them hemmed in, one of those guys goes zip and they're out of the zone. And you're like, there goes your forecheck again.
He was, JT Miller started the year at center, was moved to wing after the troubles defensively. Where do you prefer him, Ray?
Well, I prefer the 99 points of last year, which he played in the middle. That's what I'd prefer. I'm guessing that as he started and things started going south and you don't have any goals, you don't have any offense, you start to cheat. The more you cheat, the worse it gets. Going to the wing is a far easier proposition. Because if you do make a mistake, chances are it's out by the blue line. You make a mistake in the middle and you're 15 feet from the net. We used to say all the time to whenever a centerman got moved to the wing, we'd say, turn off half your brain and go have a good game. Because it's way easier playing on the wing. At the end of my career, they put me on the wing and I was like, outside of the D, steamrolling you coming down the boards, this is a lot.
Thomason used to say the same thing. It's easy. All you do is go up and down. It's super easy.
It's just, Lindy Ruff told us the other day when he started his career and he was on the blue line and because Jerry Korab, ex-Canuck, was hurt. And Scotty Bowman says, yeah, you're going to be a defenseman. Then Korab came back and Scotty didn't say anything to him. And Lindy's like skating around. I don't know what position I am or where I go. And Scotty said, you got to picture it in Scotty's voice. He said, yeah, just skate up and down the boards. He goes, you're a winger. So Lindy goes, that's how I became a winger. So
Alex
I
Biega.
prefer, honestly, guys, I prefer Miller in the middle of the ice because I think he's such a great passer. I would love to play on the wing with him. If he's struggling like he was, and the team is in the shape it's in, you've got to kind of box your top six in. I think it's nice to have balance, but you got to get your best players playing together as much as you can.
Quick trade recap here, Ray. What are your thoughts on the move? To me, we're going to devote some time to it, and it probably is an inconsequential trade going forward for both teams. I don't know that any of these players play meaningful minutes for either team going forward, but what do you think?
Well, first of all, I am amazed by people that have never seen a player play before, how much angst they get over moving this young prospect who I don't know. Yes. Yeah, who's a fifth-round pick. And I don't know what the numbers of fifth-round picks that become NHL players, but I don't think it's very high.
No.
I mean, there's a few. There's not a lot. And so the angst of, you've given up a right-shot defenseman. If he's 4 years away, now you got 4 drafts to try and draft a right-shot defenseman. I'm sure you'll probably find one. And if you don't, you can find a depth defenseman. Now, could he turn out to be Gustav Forsling? Maybe. I was just in Florida the other night. I'm like, that kid is good. He's also 26. And who's waiting around 6 years? You can't. You don't have enough contracts. You got to move people on. Oh, and he's on his third team. Now, Jack Studnicka is an interesting guy to me because I remember him as a guy that could score. And then all of a sudden he went flat. Like just nothing. And so I can't even tell you, other than a project or a possibility, what he could be. Like he's scored in the American League and he's had limited time in Boston. When you're in Boston playing center, good luck. Like where's your opportunity? Oh, maybe Bergeron. No, he's going to be there. Maybe Krejci. No, he's going to be there. Oh, and then they brought in Charlie Coyle. There's nowhere to go. I can't tell you whether he's going to play or not. He's got good size. He can skate, and he scored at another level. And so you're trying to put as much on the wall as you can, and he's also 23. Put it all on the wall, and maybe something sticks for you. And so when the trade was made, I was like, yeah, could he be a player?
Something.
Sure, maybe, but could he not? Sure, maybe, but he's going to get a chance to play. And if you're any young kid, that's really, guys, all you can ask is, will I get an opportunity? I hope I get an opportunity. I hope I earn an opportunity. And then when the door opens, I would tell this kid when he comes in, the door opens. Like if I'm coaching or managing, hey, the door's open for you. Do not let it slam in your face, because he's 23. Right? Pretty soon you're 26 and there is no more doors.
Right. Yeah.
I was watching, and I forget which highlight show last night, but one of the anchors said, boy, look at Bruce. He just looks so exhausted post-game as he was expressing all the joy and all the things you expect out of Boudreau on win number 600. Your thoughts on him getting to that milestone and the length it took here in this season, the relief at hand here for Boudreau and the Canucks.
You know what, Matt? I thought a little bit the other day. Into my last year, I had 394 goals. So I actually thought about 400. Geez, I wonder. And I'm looking, geez, maybe I can get it in the middle of October or, the end of October into early November. I think I got my 6th goal December the 5th or something. And I was playing with Darcy Hordichuk and Tommy Kallio by this time.
What took you so long?
Yeah, poor puck. And so anyways, I thought of it just the other day because, Bruce got 599 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way you don't think about, a big milestone like that. It gives you time to reflect. It also that's a pretty cool number. You start to look at where you sit on the board, and 10 days later, you're still on the same spot in the all-time board, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to win again. Then guys get hurt. Then you're like, 2-goal lead, 2-goal lead, 2-goal lead. Now people are talking about your job security, and you're like, I would think, I don't know that Bruce did. I would think, man, if I get fired at 599 wins, I'm 67 years old. I might end up like Mike Modano at 1,499 games, right? Like it's the weirdest thing. What's cool about Bruce, as people have probably got to know him around here a little bit, like he just loves the game, right? It's like the game is everything to him. It took him so long to get his first NHL job. Like it was forever until he got it. And then to pile up 600 wins is a really, really great accomplishment. It really is. I mean, he looked, I don't know, exhausted, yes, but it wasn't even relieved. It was like, I don't know, it was just like kind of, ugh, thank goodness. Like,
is he Marty Schottenheimer, guys? Is he the guy that can just win you like crazy in the regular season? But how much is he going to be renowned like Schottenheimer for not being able to do much in the playoffs?
Well, unless you find a way to do it, right?
Right.
That's the category you get put into. There's lots of good coaches that don't win. We had Cam Neely on our podcast yesterday, and he made this comment. Only one team wins the last game of the year, and you can be a great coach or a great player, and if it's not the right time or just not the right place, well, you don't win. I mean, it's 11 years ago now. Holy smokes! The 2011 team.
I was just going to say, Game 7. You're one day. We're at wrong day.
Wrong day.
Yeah.
Like that. Like remember, I'm sure you guys were in the building, but I was there, and like when the first goal went in, like everybody could have just gone home.
Yeah, we knew. We all knew. Yes.
It was just like over finished, and it's like, and you always think you're going to get another chance. I'm sure. Bruce had coached very, very good teams. You always think the next year is going to be, hey, we could be a little better. We could add this or get healthier or do this. And then it just never happens. And pretty soon, Marty Schottenheimer retires and he's had no playoff success.
Yeah.
Speaking of 408, Parisi got you this year. Broke the tie.
I was really happy when they took away the goal in Kessel's game there the other night because it kept him at 399. Then he scored the other day, and it was I'm going the wrong way on this stuff.
Yeah, well,
Harry's at 407. Ray. It's the problem.
Harry's at 407, and here's the problem: Bergeron at 404, Kessel at 400. If all three of them pass you, it's no longer top 100, Ray.
Well, I will say this: when I took a picture of Patrice Bergeron. Right after they lost to Carolina last year. Yes. And honestly, I was
by the gate there saying goodbye to everybody.
It was prior, just before they started to shake hands. He had his stick across his knees, his head down. And I was like, wow, this might be it for him. Like, what a great career. Somebody, just an exemplary career. And I'm like, I'm going to keep this picture in case he retires. And I'm, and I post it and say, this was, my last moment seeing him. Yeah. And then I noticed that, he's behind me on the goal list, and I'm like, well, maybe he will retire. now that he's come back, I'm not liking my chances.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, top 100 at any point is pretty damn good.
That's right.
Carl. That's pretty damn good.
Hell of a run.
It was a very good run.
If I had better wingers, it could have.
I mean,
damn Hordichuk.
If Hordichuk could have gotten you the puck a few more times.
With all due respect to Darcy, if I'm playing on a line with Darcy, it probably said
you're having fun.
No, but it probably said more about how I was playing at the time.
Yes,
because Darcy. I will tell you this about Darcy Hordichuk. His first shift, he had come up from the minors, and he had this reputation of, a big tough guy, and so his first shift's a few minutes into the first period. We're in Atlanta. We're playing Montreal. You remember Oleg Petrov?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Little guy comes flying around the net, his own net. He's going to make a great rush. Horty has been called. He jumps on. I'm telling you guys, in a straight line from center ice, basically where he jumped on, he hit Petrov in the face-off circle in Montreal's end. It was one of the most hellacious hits. Like his first 3 seconds in the NHL, they were scraping somebody up. And we were like, oh, look at this.
He's made of concrete too. He does not have flesh. It's just concrete.
Yeah.
This poor guy, I'm sure for a moment, Petrov thought, well, this is going to be a great rush. And then he ran right into the brick wall. Boom, finished. And I was like, ooh. That was my first time I saw Darcy Hordichuk in an NHL game.
Marvelous stuff, Ray. Thanks for this. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next Friday.
Yep. Have a good weekend, guys. And thanks. We'll talk to you next week. I don't know where I'll be. I think I'll be back home by then. We'll figure it out.
We'll talk then.